Lorraine, the Resilient Mother, with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about mastering your unique resilience. What a great way to end the year to start a new year, don't you think? With me today, I have Harmony. She has joined me to help talk on resilience, uniqueness, and her story. And please, Harmony, tell us more about you.
Thank you so much for having me, Tiffany. Yeah, motherhood is such a unique journey. I was so surprised by how transformative birthing another being can be for my own self-development. And by the time I became a mom, I was already a psychotherapist. I was already working on my first book, and I really thought that I had done enough work on myself to be able to handle the stress of what was to come. And I was surprised to find myself in a state of postpartum anxiety and depression, and decided to really, really put my whole self into learning how to be with my own transformation as I became a mother, and then serve mothers too as they were struggling with their experience.
Is that part of the work that you do now? And how do you tie resilience to it?
Yeah, so my work now is actually more focused on training counselors and coaches. I teach at a university here in town, and I've just published my second book. It's called Align, Living and Loving from the True Self. And I would say that resilience is really about learning how to be available for our own experience with deep love and compassion, and really learn from what's happening inside of us rather than overwrite it and cause ourselves more stress and burnout.
Yes, I think resilience used to have the definition of like just making it happen no matter what. And if you burn out at the end, so what? You got the result. And that's not the resilience we're talking about. We're talking about the resilience that lets you live your truth and maintain it under all circumstances. And motherhood's definitely one of those times where there's a huge transformation, because life is not the same. Once you have another human being you're in charge of, it all changes. Our perception of love, our perception of what it means to be unique, what we thought motherhood would look like is not very often what we expected, or how could it be? So it's fun to talk to each mom and how that transformed them or changed them or led them to making different decisions for their life, and continues to along the way as they learn and as they grow. Did you notice that at different stages along the way?
I mean, absolutely. It's an unexpected journey. Like, we can all have this image and picture of what we hope it to be. And then there's the dynamic of if we're in a partnership, and how that partnership can create a stressor or be really an amazing resource. And so there's a lot to navigate there, because the relationship that was before is completely changed also.
Absolutely. What would you say makes you unique?
Well, there's so many answers to that. One of the things that makes me unique as a psychotherapist and a teacher is my ability to see subtle energy. And this is something that I've had access to since I was very little. And I believe that we all do, that we all can see the more subtle aspects of interactions and our own humanity and other people's expression. And when we deny that or turn away or ignore the subtle, we actually begin to become more identified with our ordinary mind, and it can keep us in a loop of stress and just a lot of mind activity.
Interesting. So it all starts with awareness and mindset and knowing your thoughts. Is that where it begins?
And trusting your intuitive senses, that which is beyond logic, that which is beyond what other people are talking about. Like, really trusting your ability and holding it loosely, like offering it as a gift, not like, I'm seeing this thing, so it's truth.
Because we're always transforming and we're changing, but there's still this core of who we are. Do you think we're each born with certain innate gifts and things that we are destined to develop?
Absolutely. I think we all have innate sensitivities that they feel so natural to us. We don't even see them as gifts, because it's just the way that we are. And when we really learn how to hone our skills with those gifts is where we really thrive in life.
How did being a mother help you embrace that as you were able to meet a child's unique gifts?
Yeah, I remember when I had my first child, this is about 14 years ago, I was walking in an open space trail with my stroller, and I looked at her and I made a commitment that I was not going to hold myself back, that I was going to live in my truth. Like, seeing her had me recommit more deeply to being in my power and to doing what it is that I'm here to do on the planet. And she has been such a good teacher for me.
Yeah, I find each of my children are for different
Me
ways or
too.
different reasons, and I wouldn't know what the definition of love was without each of them teaching me a different aspect of it. Because each one tries and tests me or makes me grow in a way I would never grow myself.
Mhm.
I think that's part of the reason we need human connection and we need each other, is because we draw each other's truth out. We draw each other's ability to grow out. And we also have that need to support and uplift each other. And I
Mhm.
love being around women and mothers who are ready to celebrate someone when they have a success, that realize that, it's not a competition,
Mhm.
that the way you mother may be different than the way that I mother, but we're still mothers and we
Mhm.
still want the basic same things. And each of our children is unique, and mine might have struggles that yours does not, or mine might have gifts that yours does not, but we
Mhm.
still value our children as priceless and precious to us. And our role as moms, and part of the message of this Resilient Mother podcast, is the idea if mothers can be resilient, then we can raise the next resilient generation.
Mhm.
Can you speak to how being an example to our children is really important?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. They are learning not only what it means to be themselves through the way that we treat them. They're creating their personality based on the experiences that they've had in life, but also watching how we move in the world really influences the way that they see, options for themselves, really. And so when we're frustrated with our children, as a perfect example, if we feel a sense of frustration and our child is having a hard time, we can teach them simply by turning towards ourselves, being loving and kind with our own frustration, and coming back into our heart and staying connected with them, even when it's challenging, when we feel challenged. And they're learning how to stay in relationship and how to honor ourselves and how to honor other people just through that simple act.
I love something you touched on, having a relationship with yourself. You're
Mhm.
the one person you're going to have to live with your entire life. So you better
Mhm.
have a good relationship
Yeah.
with yourself.
Yes.
And
And we're designed to be loving to ourselves. We're designed to be compassionate with ourselves. That really is our true design.
I think some of the things that may get in our way with that are comparison or expectations that are put on us, or an idea that this is the path for you. But I think today that's less linear than it used to be, and we realize that.
Mhm.
How do you help your clients and your children embrace what their path is and what their struggles are along the way to discovering that truth of who they are?
Yeah, I mean, what you said was interesting because on the one hand, ideas are put onto us. And I see parents do this with children all the time, telling them how to be, telling them when to apologize or how to treat a friend, as opposed to letting them be in discovery of how they really want to be and what is really true, and seeing when they're struggling and staying connected in those experiences. And in psychology, we call them introjections, where somebody else's idea come into our way of thinking, and we don't pause to say, do I believe this too? Is this really what I want to? Is this how I want to be also? And so with my clients and my children, really anybody in my life, I'm always looking for their autonomy, their sovereignty, and I'm owning what I think and how I feel as my own, so that there's room for us to think differently, to want different things, and stay connected in that experience.
I love how you put that. You made room, you give
Mhm.
space. And I think it's important for children to feel safe. This is something that recently I've discovered in the coaching world, is this idea of safe space. Well, then I was like, am I creating that in my home? Am I giving that
Mhm.
safe space for exploration and who they are and who they're stepping into, especially as I have a teenager now. And
Mhm.
ooh, I don't think there's any way to prepare for that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. I have a teen too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as they express their truth
Mhm.
and it aligns, as long as it's safe, I'm okay with it. But when
Mhm.
something feels unsafe to me, that's where things rub, I start to realize, and where there's friction between us.
Mhm.
And sometimes what we feel is unsafe for us is safe for them. It's just
Mhm.
different. So I think there is a line where we do want to keep them safe. And there's also a line of, well, this is true for me. This is true for you. Oh, they're not the same, but
Mhm.
it'll be okay.
Mhm.
And do you find that happens too?
I mean, learning how to set loving boundaries is like the curriculum of parenthood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and even though like I want my children to make choices that honor themselves and come from their autonomy and sovereignty, I am the adult, right? And so really being in my adult and being able to see the bigger picture and have a real loving conversation is also part of that. Yeah.
And I find sometimes the conversation can be tough love, but if you really let them know your intention, that I'm saying this or I'm doing this because I care and because I love you, that sometimes can turn a
Mhm.
situation around, because then they take a moment to understand that there's more than a punishment or a judgment or whatever it is that can be there. There's love there. And,
I
and
Sorry, I think people underestimate the value of stating our intention. By
mm,
simply saying, I'm talking to you about this because I love you, because I care about you, goes so far. Because otherwise, the people in our lives can see us as their opponent, like we're against them or trying to control them. But if that connection and care is explicitly made with our words when we're talking to our partner, our children, or really anybody, I mean, it can transform a conversation and we can stay in a heart-centered communication.
I'm finding it extremely powerful co-parenting,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of assumptions of what the intention is in some of the conversations, especially when, like, we live states away and there's some different ideas and he has a new family. I don't have one yet. There's all these things, and who we thought we knew when we were married and we were co-parenting together married is so different than divorced and then remarried. Like, there's more people, there's more parties. But if we can always come back to what the intention is, we can come back to what's best for the kids because we love them, it can really change the whole conversation and deflate any escalation or any emotions from past things that need to be healed and need to be dealt with from the break or the conflict, and bring us all back to our truth that we know we made the right decision based on what was going on, and we can keep moving forward in that way, and choose to stay in a state of love and to be love.
Yeah, on the highest level, we all want the same thing. Like we all want our children to feel loved and cared for and safe and protected. And on the highest level, we're all on the same team. We might have different ideas about how to get to that goal, but we really genuinely want the same thing.
Absolutely. Do you have a unique resilient story from one of your children, your life, or a client that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So when I, like about a year and a half before I became a mom, my mom passed away
Oh,
and we were really close. And I had just finished graduate school also, so I was feeling very lost. And I married my first husband and had a baby, and really, really thought that this was the next best step for me. And I, I've learned since that when we have a strained relationship with our maternal figure, so with our mother, which could include like volatility or the loss, because that is a strain in our relationship. She's no longer here. That is actually a precursor to postpartum anxiety or depression.
oh,
And when my daughter was born, I was so scared that she was going to die. Like
oh,
death had been so close and it happened so quickly. When my mom died, I would stay up all night long just to make sure she's breathing. And I've heard this from so many mothers since. I didn't know that this was going to be my experience postpartum, but I couldn't rest. I couldn't regulate my nervous system. And I struggled so badly, and it was so cumulative. Like every day just got worse and worse and worse. The lack of sleep, the constant diaper changes, trying to remember to eat. And I also, because I was so stressed, I didn't make enough milk. And so
Uh,
then I felt like a failure as a mom.
no.
And finding my way through that experience was really about moving through my own grief and really letting myself feel the powerlessness. Like life is, it is fleeting. We actually don't have control, and to actually surrender into that and open up to life rather than trying to control life or, contain
Yeah.
everything it was a very vulnerable experience. It was just even talking about it, I can feel the emotion that was there. It was very intense. Yeah.
Well, anytime there's a huge transition and there's a lot of change, which comes with the child, and there's loss or
Mhm.
grief attached, we want to find some sense of control or familiarity.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, sometimes that comes out in a dysfunctional way.
Mhm.
For me, I did pretty good, but I had a delayed postpartum experience where I had massive paranoia,
Mhm.
and was really in need of sleep. That's what I
Mhm.
really needed, was just some sleep, but I also had some healing to do. There were things I had
Mhm.
to let go of. If you have
Mhm.
grief or you have something that's not processed and you haven't healed it, the body doesn't lie and it's going to show up. And especially in a stage where a woman's body is changing
Mhm.
massive amounts of hormones, or for me, the postpartum came after nursing, really, when I stopped
Mhm.
nursing and the body changed. So it can happen
Mhm.
in unexpected ways or different ways along the way. And to anyone listening to this, you're not alone.
Mhm.
You're not wrong. You don't need to be ashamed. Please ask somebody for help that has the right tools in place, because you do have to find the right people
Mhm.
to help with that. There may be someone who doesn't understand. And I'm really strongly against people taking advantage of someone in such a vulnerable state like that for their own agenda. And so it's important that we support mothers. That's what this podcast is all about.
Absolutely.
And my COVID experience, I felt like I could not find the support I was looking for,
Mhm.
because I wasn't looking for someone to shame me for my situation, to make me
Mhm.
feel crazy, to make me feel wrong. I was looking for love. I was
Mhm.
looking for support. I was looking for rest. I was looking for healing. I was looking for that cheerleader of, you're going to get through this. You're a good mom. I know where your heart is, and you are going to figure this out. And so I'm happy that we're able to share this and have this conversation so that more people can feel comfortable having these kind of conversations, so that all of us can realize we have the same humanity. We're
Mhm.
all going to experience some low point in our life that changes us and transforms us if we let it. And on the other side is our truth. The other side is who we were meant to be, and we get to celebrate that together. Can you speak to that in your work?
Yeah, I think that it's so common to believe that if we're suffering, if we're struggling through this experience, especially as a new mom, that we're failing.
Hmm.
And that can be, a downward cycle in and of itself. And having resources of support and love and connection is so important. Early on in my career, I led a lot of groups for mothers, a group for working moms, which is so important because moms who have a short maternity leave and go back, they're in a unique experience and they need each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was probably the largest group that I had. So many moms came. It was Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and they were so loving and kind with each other. We're all still connected, even though this was many years ago. And then I also had a group called Mindful Motherhood, where we really were in the, mindfulness and contemplative practices of what it means to be a mom. And I had a similar experience where I couldn't find a practitioner who I actually really felt safe and seen and loved in their presence. And so I I really wanted to create that community for moms so that we can all come together and support each other and, just sit in the struggle together or celebrate the wins together.
And I love that idea. I would love for this to be like a worldwide thing. I would love for this to be a one-stop shop website where a mom could go and find resources, find someone like you that's had that journey, or someone like me that, like, there's someone you can connect with
Mhm,
and feel validated and
mhm,
feel seen and feel heard, because families don't look like they used to. I
mhm,
mean, I'm divorced twice, single mom, had no clue that was
mhm,
going to happen. That was
mhm,
not in the plan for me. And yet I still get to choose joy. I still get to choose happiness along the way. And I'm looking for the people who get that. For the people that understand, maybe you have a mixed family, maybe it's your
mhm,
second marriage, maybe um,
mhm,
you're deciding to do it on your own. I
mhm,
do think it's You know,
Mhm.
who am I to say?
Mhm.
The world we live in today, if you're able to find love and create love within your family, why aren't we celebrating that more?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise of motherhood is the isolation,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
Like, you're with this other being all the time, and yet you can feel so alone, and so that connection with other people is so important.
yes, and I love that you did that, and I hope that gives some people some ideas. If you can't find your community,
Mhm.
create it. Go make
Yes.
it happen. We have no excuse being as connected as we are today to not be able to reach out and create the community we need if we can't find it in our own
Mhm.
physical community. But even in our physical community, do something, create a play date, a group, make a mommy music group. If you have a talent or you have a gift to give, most likely there's somebody else out there that has that same hobby or that same talent or that same interest. And we just, unfortunately, today, due to the way things are and the experiences we've had over the last years, just have to make more effort
Mhm.
that way than we used to
Mhm.
before. I remember the time before cell phones and all this technology where you had to go to someone's house if you wanted to talk to them and knock on their door. It was not, you didn't ignore people all day on a screen. And
Mhm.
I was recently at a conference where the movie Wally came up and
Mm.
how he cried when he saw it. And I find myself right now in our society today with so much consumerism and so many screens and so much things, we're all hungry for something, but we're looking for it in the wrong places.
Mhm.
It's right here. It's not out there. It's
Mhm.
not on a TikTok, Instagram account or YouTube video. It's right here. And we need to get back in here. We really need to show our kids that
Mhm.
because they're discouraged. They've watched adults not handle things very well the last few
Mhm.
years. We all didn't see it coming. We did the best that we could. And
Mhm.
now the world that they know has completely changed. And if we don't give them the tools to handle their internal world and create possibilities for themselves and see this as a way to be creative, they're going to not have the resilience that
Mhm.
they need to have the success that is meant for them because their gifts are not found on those screens. I think Mel Robbins is the one who put it best. She said, watching screens is watching someone else's dreams.
Mhm.
I'm not
Mhm.
saying don't watch this podcast or good information because there's
Mhm.
goodness. The ideas don't get lost in it. Don't
Mhm.
get lost in something outside of yourself, and make sure that you're taking care of you so you can take care of everyone else in your life, especially as a mom. Can you speak a little bit about how important it is for a mom to take care of herself first?
Yeah, self-care is everything, and I think that, a lot of people think of self-care as, like, having a spa day or going to a yoga class, which it can be, um, and as I was sharing with you before, that one of my unique gifts is that I see subtle energy, and I really think that keeping our energy body clear and clean goes farther than anybody can realize. I have a lot of offerings where I teach people how to clear their emotional energy pollution and set clear energetic boundaries, because our boundaries are more than our words. They're more than a no, like I'm done with this. That's what a lot of people think boundaries are. Boundaries are really a point of connection. And when we're clear in ourselves and we're really tending to ourselves in the most sacred way possible, we can really create boundaries where our connections are more deep, more intimate, and more loving because we're fully present.
And that's going to look different for everyone. I
Mhm.
think that's the thing that I'm really trying to hit on this month with mastering your unique resilience
Mhm.
is what works for me may not work for you, but it
Mhm.
is a good idea to have a strategy or a
Yeah.
system in place. But you may have to try a few, or you may have to alter
Mhm.
one to find what works for you. Music works for me, dancing works for me, anything
Mhm.
artistic creative, that's like my middle name. I'm on it. Thank you very much. But
Mhm.
what I didn't realize is that's been my therapy my whole life. That
Mhm.
has created healthy habits to turn to when life is hard or difficult. I can go get a piece of paper, I can draw it out, I can get it out of me, I can work
Mhm.
it out, I can see it for myself, understand what's going on with me. For somebody else, it might be writing, for somebody else, it might be going in nature, but it's finding what aligns with your truth
Mhm.
so that your unique being is filled. And only then can you be in flow and be at the vibrancy where you're attracting the people who also complement that. And you give other people permission also to shine their light and to live their truth. And then at a different way of living where like we're creating win-wins for each other. It gets rid of the competition. It gets rid of the comparison. It gets rid of someone having to be right or wrong. We get to just be. And it's just such a more peaceful place to live, grounded and in being. But again, it's all in here.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that journey start for you?
Well, I think it's just ongoing. I don't know where it actually started. I don't know actually where it started. When I was an undergraduate, I started teaching yoga and Pilates, and it was the first time I realized like, oh, there's this body here for me to take care of. That's my responsibility to take care of this body. And I became very devoted to tending to myself. But for me, I believe that the way we do anything is the way we do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I exercise, it is a sacred act. It's a spiritual experience. It's not to objectify my body or to be a certain size or to look a certain way or to do a certain amount of reps. It's really about tending to the sacred within me. And so I when you were talking about dancing and drawing, that's how I was feeling that too. It's like, it's such the creation that comes through when we're really have the intention to really care for ourselves and with reverence.
I love that you came back to the intention,
Mm-hmm.
the intention of the activity, because when it's ours, it doesn't have, I'm not drawing to be the best artist in those moments. I'm not drawing for it to really please anyone but myself. And that's allowed. And I think with children, it's really important to embrace when they're exploring like that.
Mm-hmm.
I found my one daughter who, the minute she had a pencil and pen in her hand, I just let her explore. I didn't judge. I didn't say anything, is the one who is the most creative and innovative because I gave space for that. And we've got to realize the responsibility of a parent of honoring that truth in whatever stage of development that they're in and that exploration, and not only allowing safe space for it, as we talked about, but also celebrating it so that they know that this is life. This is living. You're exploring and finding your truth. And then it allows them as they grow to just take that with them and take that principle of this is a process. This is exploring. This is development. And that is the joy of life.
Mm-hmm.
That is the flavor and the variety of life, that all things get to happen.
In psychology, we talk about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And so when the motivation is intrinsic and really comes from within, it's more meaningful to us as opposed to extrinsic motivation where we're trying to please other people or earn their approval. And so to withhold criticism and to really just let that exploration of our children just move through them allows them to find that goodness inside of them. I actually believe the same thing is true with homework. Right. I don't want my children doing their homework because I have a certain expectation about their grades or what's done. I want them to feel good about themselves and to do it because they genuinely want to learn the topic and they want to earn a good grade because that's what they want.
I've loved this conversation about being intentional, living your truth, how to be resilient, how to just embrace and honor the struggle and the journey of life. And to anyone out there, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here on our Mastering Your Unique Resilience. We'd love to hear from you. Any comments below? What resonated with you today? What sparked a new thought or a new process or system that you might try so that you can live your truth? We'd love to hear from you. And Harmony, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you if they want to work for you? And do you have anything coming up in this holiday season?
Yeah. So my website is thespirituallyaligned.com. And I have a lot of resources on my website, a lot of courses for spiritually aligned relationships to create really deep intimacy, and a course called Living Your Alignment, where I talk a lot about subtle energy and how to keep your energy body clear, and a lot of courses for therapists and coaches too to facilitate alignment.
Wonderful. What a powerful resource. That's what I love about this, is we get to bring more and more people together for these resources. Again, audience, thank you for being here, and happy holidays as we're going into the new year with this episode, and we'll see you next time. Take care.